The package from Oscar arrived this morning. My heart did this stupid little jump, you know? For a split second, I thought maybe he'd sent my old hoodie back, or a letter. Something human. But it wasn't. It was a thin cardboard mailer, and inside was a stack of a fur paper, neatly stapled at the corner. It felt cold, professional. Like a business report on my own humiliation. The first page was my spontaneous Bali getaway photo. My carefully filtered, sun-kissed selfie in front of a gorgeous infinity pool. And right next to it, blown up to the same size, was the original stock photo from a travel website. The watermark was huge, right across the blue water I'd pretended to swim in. Page 2, my new designer handbag, the one I'd saved for, sitting on a cafe table. Beside it, a screenshot of the online store for top-grade one-mirror replicas. He'd even used a red digital pen to circle the seller's username. Every page was like that. A meticulous, page-by-page takedown of the perfect life I'd been faking for the past 2 months. The last page was blank except for a single, typed sentence. Lena, I truly hope you find the life you're pretending to have. Please don't contact me again. I'm just sitting here on my floor, surrounded by the evidence. My face is burning. Who does this? Who prints out a goddamn portfolio of someone's mistakes just to twist the knife? It's insane, right? The level of effort. But the sickest part is, as I sit here looking at this audit of my bullshit, I know exactly why he did it. It all comes back to that dinner party at Jessica's. God, my stomach clenches just thinking about it. Jessica is the queen bee of our friend group. The kind of woman whose apartment looks like a curated Pinterest board and whose husband, Todd, works in private equity. Which is just a fancy way of saying he makes an obscene amount of money without producing anything tangible. Being in her orbit is like being in a pressure cooker. Everything is a competition, but it's all done with smiles and compliments. Your vacation to Tuscany is so charming, but her upcoming week on a yacht in Croatia is a much-needed escape. It's exhausting. I hated it, but I was also terrified of being the one they pitied. Oscar never fit into that world. He's a soil scientist. He literally analyzes earth composition for environmental consulting firms, and he's passionate about it. He'd come home smelling like rain and fresh dirt, his eyes lit up because he'd figured out a way to restore a patch of wetlands. He was real. But in Jessica's world, soil scientist doesn't have the right ring to it. It sounds wholesome, and wholesomeness doesn't buy you a Rolex. He drove a sensible, slightly dented 10-year-old Honda because, as he'd say, it's paid off and the engine is solid. So we were at this dinner. The wine was flowing, and the air was thick with casual bragging. Someone just got back from Japan, someone else was closing on a second property. I could feel my own life shrinking with every story. I was trying so hard to just blend in, to smile and nod. Then Jessica, refilling my glass with a wine that probably cost more than my shoes, turned to me with that bright, predatory smile. Lena, what exactly does Oscar do again? Something with plants. The whole table went quiet, all eyes on me. It was a test, and I choked. I could feel their judgment, this collective, unspoken assessment of my life, of my choice in a partner. All my insecurities flared up at once. So I laughed, this high, fake, brittle laugh. Oh, you could call him a high-end farmer, I guess, I said, trying to make it a joke. He makes sure rich people's lawns don't die. A few people chuckled politely, the sound of social bullets being dodged. I felt a tiny, shameful surge of relief. I was in. I had passed. But it wasn't enough. A few minutes later, Todd was talking about his new BMW, and he turned to Oscar. "What are you driving these days, man?" he asked, not unkindly. But I couldn't let Oscar answer. I couldn't let him say, a 2012 Honda Civic. The words just flew out of my mouth before I could stop them. "We came in Oscar's, his four-wheeled tin can," I said, waving my hand dismissively. "It gets you from A to B, as long as you don't mind a bit of rattling and the sound of your dignity dying." More laughter. This time it felt meaner, sharper, and I looked over at Oscar. He hadn't flinched. He just placed his fork down, very gently, next to his plate. The light in his eyes, that spark he gets when he talks about his work, was just gone. He had this perfectly blank expression. It wasn't anger, it wasn't hurt, it was just empty. A wall had come down. That's his thing. He's a communication avoider. He never yells, never argues. He just absorbs everything, all the little disappointments, all the tiny paper cuts, and stores them away until he's full. The car ride home was the quietest place on earth. It wasn't an angry silence, it was a dead one, the sound of a final string snapping. I tried to poke him to get any reaction. "Tough crowd tonight, huh? Jessica was being such a bitch," I said, trying to make us a team again. He just kept his eyes on the road and said nothing. I thought he was just being moody. I honestly, stupidly thought he'd get over it by morning. God, I was such an idiot. The next day felt weirdly normal at first. He got up at his usual time, made coffee, and left for work. He kissed my forehead, a quick, dry peck that felt more like a habit than anything else. I told myself I was imagining the distance. I told myself that once the sting of last night wore off, we'd be fine. I went to work, sat through my meetings, complained about my boss with a coworker. I was so wrapped up in my own little world that I didn't see the iceberg right in front of us. When I got home that evening, the first thing I noticed was the silence. Usually, I'd hear his keyboard clicking from the little office nook or the sound of a podcast playing from the kitchen. But there was nothing. The apartment felt hollow. Then I saw it. The key rack by the door. His set of keys, the one with the stupid little Lego Batman keychain I'd gotten him, was gone. My heart started to beat a little faster. "Oscar," I called out. No answer. I walked into the bedroom. His side of the closet was empty. Hangers were bare. The top 2 drawers of the dresser, where he kept his t-shirts and socks, were wide open and vacant. I went to the bathroom. His toothbrush was gone. His deodorant, his face wash, the specific shampoo he used that smelled like sandalwood, all of it gone. It was a surgical removal. He hadn't just packed a bag. He had erased himself from our apartment. There was no note, no dramatic, angry text, not a single missed call. The only thing he left behind was his key to the apartment, sitting squarely in the middle of the kitchen counter. It was sitting on a little coaster, perfectly centered, like a museum exhibit. The sheer efficiency of it all is what broke me. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want a tearful goodbye. He didn't want closure. He just wanted out. And he did it in the cleanest, most brutal way possible. He ghosted me from our shared life. That's when the anger hit me. It completely eclipsed the panic and the hurt. How dare he? After 3 years, this is what I get. A silent disappearing act. In my head, I started building this narrative. He was a coward. He couldn't handle one little joke at a stupid dinner party. He was weak. He was the one who was wrong, not me. He pushed me to this. Jessica and the others would hear about this, and they'd ask questions. I couldn't let them think he dumped me. No, I had to be the one who was thriving. I had to show him, and all of them, that I was so much better off without him. I wasn't just going to survive this, I was going to win the breakup. And that's when the plan started to form. A sick, stupid, desperate plan to build a whole new life, one post at a time. My new life began on Instagram. It was pathetic, really, how quickly and obsessively I committed to the bit. It became my full-time job, a performance piece for an audience that might not even be watching. My first move was the spontaneous solo trip. I couldn't afford a weekend in the next state, let alone a flight to Bali. So, I spent an entire Saturday hunched over my laptop, diving into the seedy, complicated world of Photoshop tutorials. I found a high-res stock photo of a woman from behind, looking out over one of those ridiculously beautiful infinity pools, her back to the camera. Her hair was kind of like mine. It took me 6 hours of frustrating, painstaking work with a free editing tool, trying to blend the lighting and erase the pixels. The final result looked okay if you didn't zoom in too close to my neck where the lines were a bit blurry. Needed to clear my head, I captioned it, feeling a bizarre mix of shame and triumph. Sometimes the best company is your own. Solo travel finding myself Bali. The likes started rolling in immediately. Jessica commented with a string of fire emojis and "OMG babe, so jealous." It felt like a hit of a drug, a warm rush of validation that momentarily silenced the gnawing emptiness in my apartment. Next came the wardrobe upgrade. I couldn't show up in my Bali pictures and then be seen in my usual Zara outfits. I blew nearly a whole paycheck on a mirror replica of a handbag that I'd seen every influencer carry. The website was slick, promising Italian calfskin leather and flawless one detailing. When it arrived in a cheap, dusty box reeking of chemicals, the leather felt suspiciously like plastic. But the logo was perfect, and from a distance, it looked the part. That bag became my co-star, my proof of a better life. I took pictures of it sitting on the table at my local coffee shop, carefully angled next to my single, overpriced latte that I'd make last for an hour. I'd prop it on the passenger seat of my car for a running errands shot. I even took a selfie in my bedroom mirror with it, half my face artfully cut off, with the caption, "A little retail therapy to celebrate my freedom." #self-love. I became a meticulous architect of a life I wasn't living. I'd dress up in my best outfit on a Tuesday night, do my hair and makeup for 2 hours, and walk to the fanciest restaurant in my neighborhood. I wouldn't go in, of course. I'd just stand outside, take a quick, smiling selfie under their chic, warmly lit awning, and post it with a caption like, "Treating myself tonight. The tasting menu here is divine. You guys have to try it." Then, I'd walk the 15 minutes home in my painful heels, the smile melting off my face the second I was out of public view, and eat a bowl of instant ramen over the sink, scrolling through the comments telling me how amazing my life was. Every single post was a carefully crafted lie, aimed directly at an audience of one. I was obsessed. I checked Oscar's profile a dozen times a day using my friend Maya's account, since he hadn't blocked me yet. I'd scan his followers, his likes, anything for a sign that he was watching, that he was hurting, that he was regretting his decision. But there was nothing. His page was a ghost town. No new posts, no new stories, just silence. The silence was louder than any argument we ever had. It was a vast, empty void, and I was just screaming into it with filtered photos and fake captions, getting nothing back but the hollow echo of my own deception. And honestly, it wasn't making me feel powerful. It was making me feel crazy. And that brings me back to today, sitting on my floor, surrounded by the neatly printed pages of my own bullshit. After staring at them for what felt like an hour, my hands started shaking so badly I could barely unlock my phone. My first instinct, my only instinct, was to call Jessica. She was the one I was doing all this for, right? She would get it. She would be on my side. I screenshotted the pages and sent them to her, then immediately called, my voice cracking. "Can you believe this?" I sobbed into the phone. "He's stalking me. This is psycho behavior, right? He sent me a fucking dossier on myself." Jessica's response was weird. "Oh my God, Lena, no way," she said, but her voice didn't have the outrage I needed. It had a different energy. A hungry, gossipy energy. "That is actually insane." He printed them out. "Wow, wait, so that bag was fake." The question hit me like a slap. "That's not the point, Jessica," I snapped. "The point is he's harassing me." Right, totally," she said, backtracking quickly. "He's such a creep for that. Don't worry, honey, you're better off without that kind of negativity." We talked for a few more minutes, with her offering a lot of empty platitudes, but I could feel it. I wasn't a friend in crisis. I was the topic of the week's group chat. The call ended, and I felt even more alone than before. About an hour later, a text popped up from Maya. She's part of the same group, but always felt a bit different, quieter. Her message was simple: "Hey, just heard what happened. Are you okay?" I called her, ready to launch into the same tirade I gave Jessica. But before I could, Maya just said very gently, "Lena, can I be honest with you?" I mumbled a yes. "I saw your posts over the last couple of months," she started, and her tone was so devoid of judgment it was almost more painful. "And I just kept thinking about that night at Jessica's. We all heard what you said about his job and his car. It was really uncomfortable. He's a good guy. He spent an entire afternoon helping my brother move last year and wouldn't take a dime for it." She paused, and I could hear her take a breath. What he did, sending that package, was harsh. I'm not defending that. But Lena, be honest with yourself. Weren't you trying to hurt him? You weren't just moving on, you were performing. And he didn't want to be in the audience anymore. I think he just wants you to stop. Every word was a pinprick, deflating all the righteous anger I had built up around myself. She wasn't taking his side, she was just holding up a mirror. And for the first time, I didn't see a woman who was winning a breakup. I just saw a sad, desperate liar. The call ended, and the silence in my apartment returned, heavier than ever before. It's been a few weeks now. The anger is gone. The adrenaline is gone. All that's left is this hollow, echoing shame. Oscar blocked me everywhere, as promised. My number, my Instagram, my Facebook. I'm a ghost to him. Jessica and her friends stopped calling after a few days. I guess my real, pathetic life wasn't as interesting as the fake, glamorous one. The gossip well ran dry. So now, my only connection to him, the only window I have into the life he's living without me, is a fake Instagram account I made. It has a generic name, a picture of a sunset as the profile photo, and 0 followers. It's my stalker account, my little portal into hell, and that's where I am right now. It's 2 a.m., the whole city is asleep, and I'm sitting in the dark, my face lit up by the blue glow of my phone. I'm scrolling through his feed. He finally posted something new. It's not what I expected. It's not what I secretly, morbidly hoped for. There's no new, perfect girlfriend. There's no flashy car or expensive trip to make me feel better about my own lies. It's just a photo, a little blurry, obviously taken on a phone by someone who doesn't care about angles or lighting. He's in a backyard, standing by a barbecue grill, holding a pair of tongs. He's laughing, a real, unforced laugh that crinkles the corners of his eyes. He's surrounded by a few of his old college friends, the nerdy, kind ones I always found a little boring. They're drinking cheap beer out of the bottle, and one of them is trying to balance a burger bun on his head. It's just normal. It's a snapshot of a simple, happy, real life. The kind of life we used to have before I decided it wasn't shiny enough for a photograph. Every pixel of that picture, every genuine smile, feels like a judgment. He didn't need to fake a new life to be happy. He just needed to get away from the person who was faking hers. And as I zoom in on his laughing face, one tear finally rolls down my cheek and hits the screen. I'm not crying because I miss him. I'm crying because I finally realize I ruined something good, not for a better life, but for the picture of one. And now all I have are the pictures,